There you were. I don't see me on.
It's booting now, I think. It should be any sec.
Okay.
What's it saying?
T minus. It says T minus.
Hey.
There you are.
Here we are. Welcome, everybody.
All right.
Do we want to hang out here a little bit, wait for everybody to get in here? In case they, we told them 7, so.
That's true. Yeah, I've got a couple of minutes.
Well, we chit chat with people in here. Good to see Michael in here and Rivers.
Yeah.
And Nick. Yeah. More and more. Yeah, Nick the Loser.
That's awesome. And no echo. That's a bonus.
Hey, no echo. Yeah, that is a bonus. Hey, Pamela, good seeing you. Welcome, welcome.
So, Mark, I got my Journey shirt on today.
Dude, that's weird. It's like you like Journey or something.
Yeah.
Little known fact, Gonzo loves Journey. He likes 80s bands. Makes him feel young or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't think that's the case.
Now's a good time to talk about the fact that only the best music came out of what era, Gonzo?
Dude, there's good music everywhere. You just got to find it.
Yeah, I agree. You
just got to find it. Nowadays, it's just harder to find. I think that's really the key.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want like mass produced, ultra produced music that's all run through filters and auto tuned, and there's plenty of that.
Well, we had top pop 40 or whatever was always the case, even when we were growing up. But it was easier to find other kinds of music. I think now it's a little more because it's easier to find stuff everywhere. It's harder because there's so many places everywhere. Right. And with the streaming and stuff, you can be introduced to so much different stuff that it's hard to connect to one thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I like what you were saying about the fact that the kids today have access to the 80s music, so they're not motivated to make good music.
Well, I think it's the best time ever to be someone who's looking for good music, because you can access music from any time period ever, and it's a click away. Yeah. Whereas before, we had to physically go out and buy the album, record, disc, tape, whatever time it was, and you had to listen to it and find it, because radio stations were only playing what was current. Where nowadays you can, through Pandora, or more importantly through Spotify, like that, it's so much easier to find great music. And so my kids, as you know them well, my kids love bands from the 70s, the 80s, stuff that I don't even like. They like stuff from the 60s and 70s, and they know the lyrics, they know all the... Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, they have access to all this.
As well as stuff from today. So they're connected to all the good music.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Yeah, we share our spoiler. We can actually just, hey Siri, play this, and boom.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And I'm still finding stuff, that I didn't listen to back then because I either physically didn't have the tape or CD or wasn't exposed to it for some reason. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty neat.
I apologize right now for saying that hey SIRI thing, because I know it just triggered my devices. Anyone listening, their devices all may have woke up when I said that. You don't say SIRI, and I just did that. Hey,
SIRI.
Yeah, don't say that. Yeah, don't say that. Yeah, don't say the ALEXA thing either. Yeah. All right. Well, looks like we're about coming up on 7 here. I think we got a good number of people in here. Looks like we'll be hitting there soon, Gonzo. Yeah. Glad everybody could make it tonight. We're going to talk just a little bit about a few things that are on our minds. For sure. And I thought we'd start with my favorite thing. Lately, Gonzo, I'm reading Dragonlance Chronicles, the first trilogy of the Dragonlance series, and it's been a while since I read it. Last time I read it was when you and I were young tykes passing around at church. the different copies. We were all taking turns reading it. So I remembered a lot of it, but there was a lot that I had kind of forgotten. It's weird. I don't know why that is, but it's still pretty awesome. It's really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait till it comes to 5th edition, but
you may be waiting a while.
yeah.
We talked about once we were rehashing that great storyline. I think we talked about. I wonder when this campaign setting will come to 5th edition.
Right.
But because it was a campaign setting in first and second, I think second edition or something, but
right.
First edition for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we talked about it, and I think we're going to make a video about it here in the future.
Right.
But it'd be cool to talk about it tonight because I feel like the road to get to that point is what we need to converse. What would it take to get Dragonlance to be in a 5th edition supplement for us, a campaign setting?
Right. Yeah. So, what about those who don't know what Dragonlance is? I mean, maybe you want to talk about how they even came up with the idea, which I thought the story behind them writing it, I think, is just pretty cool. So,
yeah. Sure.
You want to relate?
Yeah. Well, it's a group of people that were playing the game. They were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and this was their adventuring group, and they had created this world of Kryn or whatever, and had created different characters in that. And then eventually a couple of them were writers anyway, and they decided to write a story about it. And they were working for TSR,
right.
developing other modules or adventures for TSR. And then they decided to write a novel. TSR paid them to write a novel,
mm-hmm.
and the novel blew up.
Yeah.
Once the novel blew up, and then they had a series of them, and then TSR pushed. I think they let everybody and their brother write a spin-off of in the Dragonlance world,
Right.
And once the novels blew up, then D&D made it an official setting and came out with all the D&D modules and all of that. You could actually pick the actual characters from the book as your player characters.
Right.
It was pretty interesting, but
so everybody out there, hang on to your notes when you play.
Yeah.
Maybe
Critical Role is the same thing.
Yeah. Wow.
We're doing it live,
yeah.
But it's the same scenario where they created, they had this group that was playing for quite a while of time. They had this great storyline. Someone was kind of in charge of the overarching setting and all that.
Yeah.
And it caught on, and now people want to play in that same world. Now it's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, and that's why we have the new book coming out. Yeah, basically, the book was written as a result. I mean, kind of the notes, the campaign setting, and now it's become a book.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's interesting how things come back around again. So you and I have talked about a lot of tweets and things from Mike Morrells and Chris Perkins and who's the other one? I'm forgetting. Jeremy Crawford. Yeah. There's tweets back and forth. They've talked about they'd like to bring all of the old settings into 5th edition at some point. So it seems like it's an inevitable thing, but how are we going to get there?
Yeah, and that's where I don't feel it may be inevitable with Dragonlance. And the reason is because I feel that the setting is very similar to what we already have in Faerun or in the Wizards of the Coast or Forgotten Realms.
Right.
I feel it's very similar to that. And so the setting would have to be different for it to add value to anyone's game.
Right.
You say, hey, here's a new book with a new adventure. What would be different in that? And you and I were talking, and this is what we'll make our video on, but
right.
It has to offer something new races, maybe some new subclasses.
Yeah.
Some new magic items like Dragonlances.
Yeah.
Some new mechanics like physically riding on a dragon and aerial combat.
Yeah.
The new races like Kender or Gully Dwarves or some of the others.
Or I'd forgotten about Sea Elves.
Sea Elves.
Sea Elves, yeah. We haven't seen that before.
Right. Palinesti. I mean, So it isn't just creating a new setting, but it should have more to offer a regular person who's never heard of Dragonlance or whatever. Why would I want that? Well, This is why. Because we have, in this one, you actually get to eventually maybe ride a dragon in a war that's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And choose bad or good dragons, depending on what kind of game you want to play. And you can do aerial combat, and there's going to be a, you know, maybe Lord Soth is involved, where you have an undead. I don't know, what was he, a lich or something?
Right.
So I mean, there's so many different things that they could do, but I think all of that being said, I still don't think that's enough to garner enough interest.
Right.
Because there's people that are older like us that would understand, would know Dragonlance, maybe have read the novels, but my sons have, because I've passed it on.
Right.
But a lot of people haven't read them in a long time.
Right.
And so I feel like it wouldn't even work to me. I don't even think it would work for them to just come out with some more like novels again with maybe the original party again or something. I wouldn't even think that would work. I think you were mentioning to me, and that's probably what it would take, is some kind of a Netflix deal or a movie or something where that would garner the interest of the mass audience.
Yeah, you figure. Look at the stuff that Netflix is willing to put on. I mean, they're just combing the world for content, and you have some really, really rich, robust content right here. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure Netflix is on watching right now. They would make a lot of sense to do that, to put money into something like that. It's a safe bet. It's compared to some of the other things they put on, I think. It's gonna immediately, it would resonate with Lord of the Rings fans. It would resonate with anyone that's played fantasy, because I think one thing about it, it's kind of a pure formula of fantasy that we're used to. And you've got your healer, you got your fighter class, you've got magic, you have the old standards, but there's a few new twists too. But like you and I talked about, you could start small scale, like Mandalorian kind of thing, or you could go big, or just building that audience and showing the rich world that they've created for that. I just think it's on par.
They did something like that. If they were able to get something signed and produce a show or something, that would look what The Witcher has done for the Witcher game.
Yeah,
like people have been replaying that game. They had I don't know, they almost broke records with re-downloading of the Witcher game and Witcher series. That's years ago.
Right.
And so I think it can happen, but I think for the interest to be garnered, it would have to be a different medium than just a novel.
Well, you look at Game of Thrones. I don't think a lot of people knew that series necessarily, unless you read fantasy already. You wouldn't know about Songs of Fire and Ice. You wouldn't know that series had you not read all that. But then they threw it out there, and I think it resonated. Again, I think there's not enough fantasy kind of content out there, which is why you and I watch Lord of the Rings like over and over and over again. I mean, there's just not, and I think there's a thirst for it. So, but it needs to be the right thing. I mean, can you say animated Dragonlance movie? I mean, that one did not help the cause.
No, that didn't. Yeah, the comic books that they released. Yeah, that didn't grow it. I think that like we said, the chicken before the egg kind of thing. I think there needs to be, in today's day, there needs to be some kind of media format of this. Not even a video game. I think it would have to be, like you said, a Netflix series or something that garner interest, and then at the same time, TSR Wizards of the Coast can go into start producing some stuff for that and whatever. I don't know. I may be wrong. We could both be very wrong about that. Maybe they just release it, but I feel like they would definitely sell a lot more and get more interest involved if there was something else they were hooking on to.
Yeah, I'm really kind of I'm happy and excited and yet scared at the same time. The new D&D movie coming out in 2021.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know. It can either help.
Yeah, because all of us have an idea of how cool it could be.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't match that, then we're going to be disappointed in some way, I would think. But at the same time, as long as it's not as bad as the one that came out 10 years ago, 12 years ago, with Wayne's brother, and as long as it's not that bad.
Oh gosh, what was that? It's funny. I saw an article that said that everybody pretty much hated those movies, but they liked the animated cartoon back in the 80s, and I was like, wow, that says a lot for the if that's better than that, like wow, yeah.
So Rivers, I see he's in the chat. He also said Dragonlance was a great series. Rivers, I need your. Oh, he's leaving. I need your address. So if you can tweet me, like send me a DM through Twitter, or maybe email us. And my Twitter symbol is the Great Gonzo 83. And if you type that in, you'll find me. It'll say Gonzo at Dungeon Class. Or our email is what, Mark? What's the best way for him to email us?
Yeah, dungeonclass@gmail.com.
Dungeonclass@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Rivers, I need you to email us your address. We have something for you from one of the previous contests that we just haven't been able to get to you yet. So, and also I see someone, Michael DiPiano, says, why wasn't Bright more successful? Have you seen that?
I started watching, honestly, I don't know why I stopped, but I started watching it and it was good. It was really, I mean, how can you beat it? You've got, oh gosh, this guy's name all of a sudden. You got a good actor. Yeah, Will Smith. You got a good actor. I mean, and it had a good premise and everything. It looked pretty interesting. And I don't know. It's like, sometimes you don't know what hits, what resonates and what doesn't. And that's what kind of is scary. What I like about Netflix though, is they're willing to put in they're like order a whole season. Boom. Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, make a whole season and we'll see how it does. I mean, who does that? And network television doesn't do that. Right. So I think it's worth a shot, and I think it could really pay off. I would think all the D&D fans would like it anyway, if it's done right. But yeah, they've shown that they can do it. I look at Game of Thrones, I look at Witcher, I look what they've done, and I'm like, hey, if they can do that, yeah, they can do D&D. I agree with the chat on that.
They could do Conan, Netflix. You know, they could, because I collect comics, and that's one of the ones I collect is Conan the Barbarian, the Marvel run, along with Savage Sword of Conan, those big Paul magazines. And what I liked about those Conan issues was each story it didn't run from 1 month to the next normally, or if it was only 2 or 3 issues. Right. It was a complete story within one issue. And I'm actually using them now. I'm rereading a lot of these older ones, and I'm using some of these stories and creating for my campaign, D&D campaign, because they're great little story arcs that you can just throw your group into. But that would be same thing. And for a serialized show, you could have him going around doing his thing and solving issues and stealing from the rich and, righting the wrongs and that kind of thing.
Right.
I guess we should go work for Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some pretty... yeah, I've seen some really dumb things pitched to them, and I see, they've had some really awesome shows, but they've had some. It's like, seriously, I just have a hard time envisioning them sitting there and someone pitches it to them. They go, "This would be excellent. Yeah, we should throw a lot of money into this. This is good. This will be great." I can't picture that for some of these ideas. Well, movies for that matter. Some of the movies, I'm like, really, yeah.
Right, that's true.
So that's it. We just need to prime the pump a little bit, and
So for Dragonlance, I think we'll work on this a little bit as far as gathering our ideas together. But for Dragonlance to come to 5th edition, I think ultimately there needs to be more exposure to the masses. Before if I was Wizards of the Coast, I wouldn't do it yet. I don't think there'd be enough demand. Yeah. From the old school guys that are still playing the game.
Yeah, if I think we've learned anything, they seem to be releasing things that they're pretty confident is going to really make it, or it expands the universe. The problem with Dragonlance is first blush, it looks a lot like Faerun.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you've got to make the case for how is it different and why will you need it? Because then people would say, well, why not Greyhawk? And it looks like it, but I just think there's enough different that it would resonate with people. Like we just talked about, there's enough things that add to the game, and I think that's the bottom line. Is I want things that add to the game. So then exactly. you look at that and you're like, well then.
That's why we would have to come up with before we put a video out, we're going to have to try to figure out within that world. Yeah. What are some of the mechanics and races and different things that it could add to current D&D for it to even be worth doing.
Yeah, and adding to the world, if you think of adding to the world, you go look at Dark Sun obviously adds, Eberron, as Michael said, Eberron added there. And and yeah, I agree. Kender are pretty awesome. But Eberron adds Dark Sun. A Dark Sun would add to it. And,
yeah, that's because that's so completely different.
And if we want completely different, Spelljammer. Yeah. I don't know much about Spelljammer, but it sure expands the world of D&D.
Yeah, yeah, it goes from fantasy to sci-fi, whole different world.
Well, and while we're talking about different worlds, do we want to talk a little bit about our playtesting of Whispers in the Dark with MT Blacks? So we a while back, Dungeon Class was lucky enough to be. We got to playtest some content before it came out, and it's available in Drive-Thru RPG, I believe, if not DM's Guild, if not both. MT Black, which we love his content. He makes a lot of great 5th edition content. He's done something a little different with Whispers in the Dark, which we're pretty excited about. Talk about expanding things. He's trying to bring more Cthulhu horror type stuff to 5th edition, which I don't know if those in chat, or I don't know if you're aware of Cthulhu is there's a separate game of Cthulhu, which it's kind of set like in the 30s, steampunkish kind of feel to it. The idea of beings outside of our universe are super powerful and they control things, and so it's a different feel, a different game. And what MT Black's doing is kind of bring some of those elements into what we already know, which is 5th edition, and make it's going to make it more comfortable people to just drop that into their game. They can just start playing with his. He has a rule set that adds some game mechanics and things to what we already know, which is kind of a nice way maybe to do that rather than learn a whole new system with Cthulhu. I know Cthulhu has different dice and things.
Yeah, made it 5th edition compatible, which was not, because we already knew how to do skill checks and stuff, investigation, roll for investigation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so
like that the playtest that he sent us had already pre-made characters, so we didn't have to worry too much about, well, what are we expecting here? And you set up the setting.
Right.
Well, and so, I think it went pretty well. I know I enjoyed it. I played it. You ran it.
Yes. So what did you think as a player? And then we'll talk about it as a DM.
So as a player, the exploration phase, a pillar of D&D, right? That's one of the 3 pillars.
Right.
That pillar, sometimes that tends to be one of my favorites because it's problem solving. So it's generally problem solving, whether you're trying to find out who did something or how to get to some place or how to disable a trap or whatever.
Right.
And this was definitely built around that pillar of D&D. It wasn't built around heavy combat. And there was a lot of role playing too. But so I liked it. And I think that we did it. Was it one night we did it or 2?
It was one night. And it kind of fit that way. It wasn't... It was a little different because of the pacing of it, first of all. So basically, if you, as Gonzo was saying, it's definitely the exploration, and it hits more on that, and it has a different field altogether. So if you kind of think CSI, though, because it had a lot of detail, like the exploration was really detailed. In fact, it was more detailed than I thought. The pacing of the game is different because it does lean so heavily on exploration. There's not much combat in it, and that's kind of, I think, the way it is with Cthulhu as well. Because the idea in Cthulhu is, oh my gosh, you can't possibly go toe-to-toe with that creature.
Right.
It's just not possible, So you may be running away, which is a crazy concept, In D&D, we're like, run away? Why would we do that,
Yeah.
So that's but yet you're trying to stop something from happening. You are going to contribute to whatever's going on, but
it did feel like we were in the middle of a Sherlock Holmes episode trying to figure out something, and I like that. I did like that.
Right.
And since it was playtest, he was still ironing things out, and so the finished product that he's put out, I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I don't know if he changed it. You saw it. Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So he sent us a free copy. I haven't sent it to the other players, and it's gorgeous. I'm telling you, MT Black does good work. Like. I'm just kind of looking up, trying to see how much this is because, this is crazy. So, for $4.99, I mean, it's regular $9.99, but right now it's $4.99. It's crazy not to buy it. I mean, really, I'm excited about the game that we played, but I'm even more excited about what it adds. So, what he does, he gives you these quick start rules, a rule set, and then he gives you an adventure to run, which is Whispers in the Dark. But Whispers in the Dark is the setting, and then Crowman was the adventure that he gave us. So that comes with it. Now, what's cool is he's added some game mechanics that I think are pretty cool. Like one is lingering injuries, which is something I believe was back in 3.5 or something like that. What they had.
In the DM's guide too, you can add it to your game now in regular D&D. We haven't really played with that, although it'd be sweet to have some of these people with a limp or an ear cut off or blindness in one eye or whatever. That'd be pretty cool.
Or being psychologically affected from having died and come back. Yeah. That's gonna mess with your mind a little bit. So there's that, and then there's also sanity checks. So as you encounter things that are so horrifying, your mind just can't grasp it. It starts to slip a little bit, and there's a chart that you keep. And so it's almost like reminds me somewhat of exhaustion, like we see in 5th edition already. There's such thing as exhaustion, and that it starts kind of weighing on you, and you can go and take like a long rest. And their long rest is a long rest. It's 7 days. And so you take a long rest, recuperate, and you can start to get some of those points back and start to get your sanity a little bit behind you. But there are there's short-term effects, and then there's long-term effects. And you can straight up, if you don't treat stuff, you go crazy. You're legitimately crazy, and you are basically just an NPC. You're just useless.
For our players, that's not much of a stretch.
That's true. That's just a normal evening. Right. Yeah.
Hey, someone asked in Carrie Gonzo. I know her.
Yeah, she sounds familiar.
Yeah. Oh, well, let me while Carrie's in the chat, I gotta tell you something. I've been drinking this herbal tea, right? And I'm wincing every time I take a sip. And the reason is I put honey in my tea, and I grabbed something that was called hot honey, not realizing that it was like jalapeno honey. so my herbal
surprise.
Tea. Yeah,
it's got a little kick to it.
I'm still drinking it, but anyway.
Good job, Carrie. Way to spice things up a little bit.
She had a question though. She said, "What do we think about what could add most to expanding the game? Whether it be new races, characters, new settings, bringing back older stories. What would add to the game? What do you think, or what would add most to the game right now?"
All the above. No,
everything.
I think new setting. So I guess in order of what the list she had, I would say new settings. And that's why I think I'm kind of excited about the idea of Spelljammer, or even some. I know Eberron has some steampunk feel, but something to really expand that. And like we just talked about, MT Black's thing, it does add kind of a new setting that we're not used to. 5th edition with 1930s New Orleans seems odd. But that's a new setting. I mean, it shows the capabilities of what 5th edition can do. That's what I would say. So what would you say?
The number one thing, I think everyone's always looking for new playable races and new subclasses. Like they're always looking for new ways to, because maybe especially if you've been playing for a while, you maybe have gone through all your favorites and you're looking for something new, something new to try. So some more playable races, maybe not just, like they keep adding like, turtle package where they add the turtle race or the, what's the elephant one?
Lagonodon or what?
Loxodon?
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. Elephant people?
Not like, I always feel with those, it's just more like animals, but I like the idea of different mythological, roots to new races too, or something taken from a whole different setting, like you said, like Cthulhu or sci-fi, where you could, that's crazy. So I would think that new settings with new game mechanics and new playable races and subclasses would be what people are looking for, as well as more to do with the current high fantasy setting we have, which we all love and enjoy.
Yeah, Michael's saying the Loxodon is from Magic the Gathering. Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's good to see. I think that's pretty smart on Wizards' case to bring in some of the other IPs crossover into Dungeons & Dragons. I think that's a good idea. It's a good fit, bringing in some of that stuff. I think it's good. I would say one of the things, Carrie's question brings up a good point in that older, she put older in quotes, like older stories. I think older we need to think about, I'm a fan of bringing older in. Like, I know, and that's the problem with Dragonlance. It's like, is it because of the nostalgia? And is it that, or does it really add to the game? And I think that's the problem that they face. Everybody wants all the old guys want Dragonlance, Greyhawk, and Dark Sun.
Planescape. Yeah, they want something that they remember from first, second edition. That was because there was a time when TSR was putting out box set after box set of new sets, and then letting people just go wild. Yeah. And I think that was at a time of excitement. I mean, a lot of people were getting into there or had been into the game. It had exploded for a while, and so they were just throwing all kinds of stuff out. And some of those cut on, some didn't. Ravenloft cut on. And so they had this whole group of adventures and then novels that they wrote after the fact to try to supplement and build upon. But
financially, that didn't work out so good, though.
No, because you spread your wings too far. And I think obviously they're doing something right because they're growing really quickly and they're still keeping it pretty streamlined where there's only 3 to 4 books a year. And you don't have to get all of them, or it's not like Player's Handbook 2, Player's Handbook 3, where you're like, well, I have to get that. It's more like if you want an adventure in a whole new setting, grab this. So, it's a good question. Good question.
Rivers got a good point. He said TSR was a good company, in my opinion. And I agree, Rivers. I love TSR, love what they were doing. I think Business Mind, though, was not their strong point. And I think I think they had good ideas. I think they had good content. I just think financially, you could see, given their history, they were struggling a bit. And it's almost like if they had slowed down a little bit, maybe not pumped out so much material so quickly. And those box sets, that's not a cheap way to go.
Right.
All the stuff that was in those was a lot of stuff, which you look at the way Wizards is doing it now, a book is so much cheaper than putting together a box set and putting that out. So they're definitely a little more business savvy, this group. And I like that for the health of the company.
So
but
I'm telling you, if they were to do, or when they do Dark Sun, I do feel that will come.
Yeah.
I do hope it does come in a box set and updated, kind of not the cheap flimsy box that they used to put them out in, but like the updated with the magnetic closure to them and everything with sweet art on them and all kinds of stuff inside. They could charge whatever they want and people will gobble it up.
Well, and I think they could do 2 versions, like a deluxe version, because we've seen they've done different covers, and I think that'd be a smart move on their part.
Like a deluxe version, yeah, you're right.
What is it? What's that company? Beatles and Grimm does these really crazy box set deals. Like, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a third party, but they're high quality, like leather bound stuff, and I mean they could go nuts with that. So yeah. No, that's true. I was thinking that, Rivers, that they do have the box. They have done boxes, so they're not opposed to doing boxes. No, I just think it's their speed. They know they're like, there's no rush to throw out stuff because it's not like it's hurting the company by not releasing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really, there's us. They're like, we want some more content. People are still playing. I mean, and they're playing. They're selling Player's Handbooks like they're going out of style. They won't even release the numbers, but every stat I see where people kind of figured out, like they say things like, "Oh, we're like, double-digit increase in year over year," and there's a lot of little hints they're throwing around that this thing is going crazy in sales. So, but no.
So Brono's Sunstar Ranger said psionics would be something that he would like to see added, and we have seen a version of that in the Unearthed Arcanas that they released last year.
Right.
With almost every subclass or every class getting a psionic ability, whether it was the soul stealing rogue, that had like a psionic knife that appeared, or the fighter,
which is what one of the things that helped us kind of pointed. We thought Dark Sun was coming, laying the groundwork for that, and they actually have kind of said maybe some of the UA is paving the way for future content. So they're throwing it out there, play test it, see how it's going to jive with 5th edition. Because there's that. I mean, psionics and these things existed in the older editions. What's it going to look like in a 5th edition world? So you throw it out there. Someone's got to play test it.
Right.
So they throw it out there and see how it goes, and they can tweak it and stuff, which I think is smart. I mean, we get our hands on it. We can start playing the psionic stuff, kind of playing around with it, and then see how it works.
And then they get the feedback, and then they respond in they go back and look at their notes and be like, well, people are really liking this, but not this. So we need to maybe we need to do more of this. And then they release it, and it comes out all of a sudden really nice. So, yeah, I see what Carrie said there. She said that she ran her first DMing experience. She ran the Essentials Kit experience, which is what, the Dragon of Icefire Peak or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's the adventure. And she said it's definitely not a one shot.
Yeah, I originally kind of thought it was a one shot, but looking into it, it's definitely bigger than that.
Well, I like that there's a dragon in it, because if you're starting at first level, you shouldn't be coming up with a dragon. So
no.
If you're just waving at it and walking by.
Right. Well, and I think it's kind of funny because I know when I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons, I kept wondering, when are we going to get to the dragons? Yeah, it's like
jalapeno tea.
Not a good. So that's not an advertisement for jalapeno.
That's terrible.
Who puts jalapeno in honey? That's wrong.
Oh
yeah.
Gosh, do not put a link to jalapeno.
Oh, I was gonna put that in there. The Amazon probably has it.
No, don't do
that. All right, good. I won't do that. Can you imagine putting that in there for a sore throat? You want a little lemon and honey?
Yeah.
That would. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Whoa, bro. Almost saying the new Matt Mercer magic has Sonic flavored. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Matt Mercer. So the let me talk a little bit about. You told a story about. I didn't. Just recently on that Todd Talks, you were saying about how he was pretty savvy about how he sold this new book.
Yeah. So they originally went to Matt Mercer and asked him. They asked to buy his content, basically. And he told them no. And then they came back to him and said, well, would you mind basically signing a contract with us, and then we produce a book with you? And he said, sure. So that way they didn't get the rights to it.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
He gets rights, which is smart on his end.
Yeah. Yeah, when they come to you, that's a great position to be in. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah, when it's the same kind of. I was thinking back with Geek and Sundry that they just kind of walked away from Geek and Sundry because they didn't need them anymore. You know, they helped get them where they're at. When they said they just had an amicable split and just said we're going to do our thing, and I'm like, wow, that was pretty bold. But they have a huge following, like Critical Role or not. They've done a lot for D&D, so I think it's good for them to get it back there.
Yeah.
Oh, so, habanero honey? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Michael DiPiano, he really wants this hot honey. So. You're welcome to it, brother. You're welcome to it. This stuff. Well, it's not good in herbal tea. I'm drinking Sleepy Time or something.
Oh gosh.
With habanero honey. Awesome. Anyway.
Surprise. You never know what you're gonna find in that house.
Monday's video, Mark.
Yeah.
We talked about. We've gotten quite a few comments from that and some feedback and stuff, but how to bring players back into the game. Yeah. And we presented that the problem would be when you're playing the game, maybe people are starting to get disinterested or lost in the story. And that happens. That happens quite often, actually, I think, because, well, for one, we're not playing every day. So,
right.
Once a week, hopefully,
yeah.
Maybe a little more often if you're able to. But generally, it's once a week. Sometimes for us, it's maybe every couple weeks, and it could be even worse. And so you can get lost in the story really quick or forget kind of what was going on, what you were after.
Right.
And we talked of some ways to try to fix that, to try to make it better outside of the normal things that, the distractions at the table and all that. And what were some of those things we mentioned in the video?
Well, the fact that people checking out, and and that was one of the first part was we're saying these aren't people that are necessarily vital. We talk in the past. We've talked about session 0. You want to cover things like, can you guys be present and limit phone use and stuff. And it's not that the players are doing that. It's just they're losing interest. Which, you have a mix of people at the table. Some of them love combat, and when you're in combat, there are a couple people maybe aren't really into it. And then other ones like puzzles, and so that's going to happen, from time to time. You're not going to have everybody engaged the whole time throughout the entire game. There'll be times where people will kind of you can see that they're kind of flagging a little bit. Now, as a DM, you got to watch for that, right? Well, you gotta keep your eye out and see everyone's having fun, right?
Yeah, Rivers has the answer. That's the answer that, like, the first one that came to both of our minds was try to tie the story to the player's backstory.
Yeah, because if you think about real life. The reason why people get bored with a conversation is because they have nothing in common with that, and they just start looking at their fingernails, or look for another conversation, or pull out their phone. Is what we kind of do. We just kind of, this conversation isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. So how do you get people back in? Hey Phil, I heard you got a new car you've been working on. How's that working out? You kind of bring that person back in by keying in on something that interests them, and so in D&D, that's their backstory. So
right,
that works. That's number one. What else did we say for getting people back in?
Another way to bring people back into the game would be to change up what's going on. So if we're involved in a heavy, we talked about the 3 pillars of D&D: the combat, the exploration, and the role play. And if what's in our experience, when you're doing a role play event where players are shopping, one of my least favorite things.
Yeah.
Yet it's necessary sometimes.
Yeah, dumb mages got to go in their shops and buy all their spell components and whatever.
Yeah, and they're trying to trade up a magic item or trying to get something made, and it's always a bartering system. Like, I don't know why we don't do this in real life. We don't go to Walmart or wherever and say, it says $4 here, but I'll give you 3.
Yes.
And if the cashier says no, well, I'm going to try and intimidate him.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or I'll charm him. Well, you don't want to give me 3?
Yeah, right. Well, that would be the bard trying to seduce him.
You don't do this in real life, but in D&D, there's nothing. No matter what price anything is set, the players are going to try to intimidate or persuade into a better price or better deal, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that can take time.
Well, you got to use those stats on your paper somehow. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that, but that can get lengthy, and it can involve maybe 1 or 2 of the players at the table.
Right.
So what we were saying is, when you see that this is starting to bog down and get lengthy, you need to change things up right away. Throw something at them, some kind of, change the pillar from exploration to combat, or to maybe to exploration, where all of a sudden a lady is running down the hallway and runs into the store and, please help me, they're chasing me, or just something to change gears, and instantly everyone will be more engaged because now there's something else that's going on. So changing from one phase to the next.
You just remind me of something when we're talking about combat heavy stuff. Some people prefer that kind of stuff. One of the problems, and I don't think we've talked about this on any of our videos so much, but the person who's very impulsive as a player and just does stuff, how to combat that. You and I talked about some different things, like, they come bursting in, and you don't want to be careful not to punish players, but when they start dominating everybody, like, I do this, there's ways to curtail that a little bit. So there's 2 things. There's the ones that are too impulsive, and then the ones that are too timid. Like, I ran a game, and it was painful. It was my some people that were starting. I don't want to name names, but they were starting out, and they were checking out every inch of what was going on, and it was like a one-shot kind of thing we're doing. And okay, we're going into the forest, and they're like, okay, well, I want to look around the trail and see if there's any footsteps. Can I roll investigate? And they did this, and it was like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get going? So that was problem number 1.
And that's simply from basically a healthy respect for what they're doing. Like, they created these characters, and now they know our characters are going to face peril. This is a movie. It's an action movie, so they're being cautious.
Right.
Okay, wait a minute, Mark.
I'm seeing stuff about.
Yes, we're gonna have to address this right now. So Roy Rogers.
Wow.
Says, guys, but one of you has eyebrows leaning towards Oscar the Grouch. That's a compliment, Mark.
I think so.
And it has to be you, because Puerto Ricans don't have big eyebrows.
I use it for
intimidation.
Yeah, intimidation. I use these in my classroom, actually. If kids are misbehaving, I just go like that. I get one of those looks, and they're like, yeah, it works out really good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. They're like, works. Your eyes, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Whatever works.
Whatever. It works. It works. Hey, all right. No worries. Hey.
So back to the subject there. Sorry, funny. That was awesome.
That was.
Carrie said she has a good point. She said maybe we can get feedback or suggestions from the table of what interests them most during gameplay. So that's something we haven't done a lot of, but we have done where after we've played, we say, hey, what did you guys think about this or that? Or I know like when we've kind of finished maybe a one shot, we'll always ask questions like, what were we supposed to see there? Or what was the answer to that riddle? Or were we ever supposed to see that trap or whatever? Like there's some, back and forth kind of out of the game. But I think that's a great idea to get the feel of the table and what they like, what they enjoy. In fact, that's the number one thing is what does your group enjoy? And then you respond in like kind if you're the DM.
Right. And that's hard. That's hard. That's a hard skill. It's easy to talk about and go, it's so simple. This is what you do. You just watch, you just go with it, but it comes with time. And I think if everybody's sitting here thinking that, we're not trying to scare new DMs out there. This is just next level. Just keep an eye in, because the goal is to have fun. And this is, as you do this again and again, you start to see things and how to react. But you can't do all this at once. And actually, I got a message the other day, Gonzo. Someone asked about the idea of co-DMing, and thought maybe you might talk a little bit about that too.
Well, we've kind of evolved into that, and it's a lot of. I don't want to say it's a lot of fun. It's almost necessary in our group because our group is pretty aggressive, and everyone is very. I don't know what's the word. They're just. I would say they're all seasoned players at this point, and so it's a little more difficult to challenge them because they are very cautious. They know when to make the right checks.
Right.
They know to listen at every door. They know to. So it really helps having a second DM or someone to help, whether that person's just doing the stat part of initiative tracking, hit points for bad guys, keeping track of who's conditioned, those kind of things, or whether that person is helping tell a certain part of the story and, working on, or they're drawing the map for you, whatever. So an assistant DM to me is really helpful. Like there's so much going on when you're playing the game. And as a DM, if you've never sat on that side of the DM screen, it's very different. It's very different altogether because you're not only thinking of what your story is and what's going on, but you have to respond to everyone's different questions. So if this person says, well, what do I hear behind the door? And this person says, yeah, and I want to check to see if that rope, can I tie that rope? You're getting asked questions nonstop, and you're having to quickly make decisions. And not only that, but you're keeping track of what is behind the door and what does that rope do when you pull it and all of that. So many things to keep track of. Right. And there's things you want your players to see, like the map of the whole dungeon or miniatures you're using that you're about to pull up and put in front of them they're going to scare the crud out of them. So there's just a lot to keep track of. It really does help. And I know we've been blessed to be able to have someone help initially with just the stat tracking and all of that, initiative order, and then to the point now where she is running the campaign.
Yeah.
So we're doing co-DM where we just rotate. I saw someone said something about rotating DMs may help, or rotating campaigns may help change up the pace of the game.
Yeah.
Change the whole feeling of what's going on at the table. So another great idea.
Yeah, it's funny because we just glossed past that assistant DM thing, and people are like, well, what does that look like? How does that work? And I think you brought up a good point. It's a good way for someone to get their feet wet and kind of see what it's like on that side of the screen and see what goes into it and see if that's something that they're, once they see how it works and the flow of it, I think it's a good way to apprentice, maybe, so to speak, an apprenticeship, is kind of what we're talking about. But so if they would like to do that. But I know, man, running Tomb of Horrors, man,
you did good at that, but that was a lot of work on you.
It was, but I was so thankful I had an assistant DM for that, helping just something simple as putting out the pieces, because I had the crazy idea of cutting the map into a bunch of tiny pieces. Yeah. And
I wish we would have kept that, actually, Mark. We should have kept them. I think we chucked them, your map that you created.
Yeah, maybe.
We should have kept them. I think that they could have been useful, but because so much work went into it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
It was
we're done. Like we felt like we're not doing this again.
no,
But
no. It took a long, dude. It took a lot longer than I thought. And there's a lot more rooms in Tomb of Horrors than I was thinking when I started it. I'm like, man, I'm cutting and cutting and cutting, and yeah, it's crazy.
now, Rivers in the chat, we know he runs a game with, I think he set up to 10 people.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty big group that he runs. I don't know how he does it, but I do see he says he has one person to take baited and one to move the minis on the mat. So baited maybe he said one person to take. What would that probably? It's probably a spell check thing. Probably either take notes or something. Yeah. But that's a great idea. As a dungeon master, if you don't have an assistant, you can still divvy up some of the work amongst your players.
Yeah,
and we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Ali Gonzo was our initiative tracker when we were playing, and I was DMing, and there was six of you guys playing. Mm-hmm. She would keep track of initiative, and I've heard Matt Colville talk about he lets the players keep track of the hit points at the table of all the bad guys, so they don't know how many hit points the bad guy may have, right. But they can how many have been taken off, so they can say, well, this one's -6, this one's been hit for 25, mm-hmm. And Dungeon Master knows, okay, when he hits 26, that one's gone or whatever.
Yeah.
So he divvies up the work a little bit that way. Maybe like River says, maybe you have one person kind of keeping track of the notes, and we can do a video about this. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
But one person track of the notes, like who you meet and what was their name and what clue did they give you. And then when you sit back down at the table to play again, that person is the one that reviews for everybody. Mm-hmm. Well, last we met, we were doing this and that, and it helps everyone remember. Oh
yeah, and that's good. When that is a good. We inadvertently stumbled on a good solution, I think, for new DMs. I've had a lot of DMs come to me, and they're nervous the first time out, and I just think it comes from you think you got to be able to do everything, and then what do you do when it's not in the book or one of those tables? When you explain to them that, you roll for, they roll to hit armor class, and you keep track of hit points, and you consult this chart and all this. Oh, okay, I can do that. But man, comes that time when the player wants to do something that's like, that's not in the book. So I think they're really nervous about, what do I do then? So I think that, one, I would say new DMs, everyone, I've never heard anyone jump on a new DM and just said, oh my gosh, it was horrible. The people all were mad at me. They hated me. They understand on the other side of that screen, it's a lot of work compared to what the players are doing. Right. And I think that they're with you, new DMs. I don't think they're out to get you. So I don't think that's going to happen. I've never heard that happening ever. I'm sure it has somewhere. The people go, oh my gosh, and they throw things at you, but that's ridiculous. You took the time to try to prepare, and you're trying to do it, and you can fudge things. If you don't know, you just tell them this is the way it is, because there's that rule in the book that says what the DM says goes, so you can lean on that.
It's good enough as long as the story's moving along and everyone's having fun. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if the fireball does 5d6 or 7d6. That's really not important when the story's flowing. So you just make your ruling and you move on, and then maybe you can research it afterwards and say, okay, this is what I'll do next time.
Yeah.
And you can even tell the player, hey, you were right, actually. Like if you have a confrontation, not a confrontation, but a discussion about, well, I think it does this, and you're not sure. Make a ruling, move on. After the fact, maybe look it up, and then you can learn something, or the player can learn something, and you can say, well, I was wrong, you were right, that's how the spell works. Or, actually, look at it, this is how the spell works the way I said, but now that player knows.
Yeah.
And you're not hurting anyone's feelings, your feelings aren't hurt.
No.
The game moved on, everyone had a good time anyway, so.
And really, most of the players you're playing with, I don't know that they're all going to be perfect, and they haven't memorized the player's handbook, except I think
I see Rivers is leaving. Yeah. Rivers is still there. Please email us. Please email us your address. We have something for you. So, what was the email?
I'm putting it right now.
Okay, we'll put the email in the chat. But you may have been out when we asked you earlier. But you can email us, or you can tweet. You can send a DM to my Twitter handle.
So We put out something today, Gonzo, about necromancers, and boy, that's really blowing up on Facebook. I posted our Facebook page, and then I shared it with a whole bunch of Facebook groups, and wow, the conversations. So the question,
simple question,
one simple question: Are necromancers evil?
Yeah, if you're playing a necromancer, are you evil?
Do they have to be?
Jeff Beasley painting of a necromancer surrounded by all these undead skeletons and everything. But that's an age-old question. I think a lot of people look at it different ways. I've played a necromancer. I want to play a necromancer. I love the idea of raising the dead and using them in as cannon fodder in front of me, using them to my advantage. I like the thematics of it, the spells. I like the idea of a dark, black hooded figure that's in a party. It does remind me again of Dragonlance, where you have Raceland, the wizard who was not, everyone else was pretty lawful good, so to speak, and he was not. He was all about his own self, his personal ambitions, power, and it made for a great story. And so, are they evil? It's a good question. There's a lot of people go back and forth with that.
Michael says he's a chaotic good skeleton necromancer, and his name is Jack. That sounds familiar.
Jack Skellington.
Yeah, he's becoming death. Yeah. Interesting.
Something's up with Jack. Something's up with Jack.
Yeah. So, it really raised. There was a lot of discussion over, in most cultures, summoning dead people, it's desecrating their graves, and so that's just inherently evil. And it was funny to see the arguments back and forth. I'm like, well, just because the morals of the world doesn't have to exist in your Dungeons and Dragons world, and you're the so it was but back and forth. But they raised some interesting story ideas of their backstory was like, one was that they had been taught that at a young age. That was the place that they had been. They learned how to become a necromancer. That's what but they were trying to use it for good whenever they could, and they could do that and sum it up in a pinch if they had to, but they didn't want to have to do it, but they would if they had to, kind of thing. And it was like, wow, they had some really good ideas of how to make a good necromancer, using them only for good, summon up dead people. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with having a player character that has evil designs. I think your warlock that played with us initially started off lawful evil, maybe, and was all about himself.
Yeah.
And through the course of the story, even though he felt he was evil, you could see the character making decisions that benefited the group.
Yeah, he leaned heavy on the lawful part.
At first.
Yeah.
Eventually, you could see him transform, which is kind of the hero's journey anyway. So maybe a necromancer. Yeah, I don't think you as a DM you should ever tell anyone, no, you can't be that at my table. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like when it's especially something from the player's handbook that's just a wizard subclass. I mean, you should just go with it. Do your best to help the player develop his character with a cool backstory, like you said.
Yeah.
And see how it works in the dynamic of the group.
Well, and I think it was interesting. One of the guys, as a DM, he said he made a rule that if you're going to be a necromancer, it's not about good or evil. That you just can't be lawful, because the laws of the land in his world were that you can't go summoning up. It's just against law. But, is it inherently good or evil? That would be a moral judgment. But so maybe you don't summon up people out of graveyards per se. That may not be a good place to do it because it's against the law and you may get locked up. So it was that was an interesting way of handling it. I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. So I could see making that a rule. It doesn't affect the good or evil. They could be a good person all around, but they just can't be lawful. So chaotic good or neutral good or whatever. Yeah. Lots of presidents good, neutral.
It's getting a lot of engagement, that's for sure. But I think that the question is probably going to be depending on each group. That's what that's how it's going to roll, whether it fits in your group or not.
Right.
If somebody wants to play as a necromancer, I think if anything, it adds interest to the game because you play with somebody who your cleric doesn't agree with at all.
Right.
Not the first group that has fought. Again, we can go to Star Wars as the classic storyline where Han Solo didn't even get along with. He didn't care about Princess Leia's ideas of saving thing, or he was about himself.
Yeah.
the hero's journey again. There's an involvement there that they have to have.
Well, and that makes a most interesting story. Like you were saying about my warlock. He was, at first a lot of people in the group didn't even like him. They were really, at least because he was evil, they're like, yeah, we're not going to like this guy at all. And there were people. The cleric, I think, had a real problem with him being in the party, but he, like I say, leaned really heavy in the lawful. I mean, lawful means that you're loyal to your group. That's part of being lawful. And so even though he would do things for evil purpose, that was his plan anyway. And he was a warlock. And warlocks just kind of have not to say they all have to have this, but it just a natural fit for them to have like an evil flair to them. But yeah, he doesn't have to be. He can be good. So my character was like that. Needs to, he started to evolve. He couldn't help himself. He was like conflicted between, well, I have to help my people, help my group, but my group's doing good things, and so there was it made it kind of hard. But at the end of the day, it served him best even to get what he wanted. So he kind of needed to be with him. So and a warlock by himself out in the wilds, not a good idea. Just wandering around by himself. So he kind of needed a group to protect them, even though he didn't want that. Very arrogant. But, so we've got some good chat going on tonight. We're really appreciative of the
definitely, yeah. And it won't always be on a Thursday night. I know that we have started that right now, but I don't think it will always be a Thursday night. It just happens to work out in our schedule right now. But I know that we may change that up a little bit, or even more often, or whatever. But I do like doing the live streams. I like connecting with each and every one of you guys that are here. And if you're rewatching this, which is what I do with other people's videos, even live streams, I'll rewatch them as I'm driving or whatever. But if you're rewatching and you haven't subbed to our channel, I encourage you to sub to the Dungeon Class channel. We're really just getting started, and it's been a lot of fun to this point, and we're still developing a lot of things that are going to improve not only our channel, but even how Mark and I approach things with you guys and the way we are able to connect. So sub to our channel. It really helps us as we grow. We're going to be able to do a little more. And I'm just grateful for the time we have to talk about a fun hobby.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's too bad that no one's playing this game, really. It's just it's only played in basements, and no one really knows about it. And yeah, it's exciting to see people from Gonzo and I feel very strongly that anybody can play D&D, and everybody should. And that's something that's a common theme for us, is that we feel like everybody should try it. I think there's been that stigma in the past that only nerds play this game and all, but you're seeing all people from all walks of life that are playing and having a good time. And I think it's kind of interesting. Tabletop games in general, playing in a group, party games are on the rise. People are really thirsty for
human contact.
Yeah, playing with people, and it's so much cooler and better and more interesting than playing online, which I played online for a number of years, but it's just way better in person, and you have a great time. And I'm really excited about the success of this game, and we feel like anything really at the end of the day, like the argument over the new book, it's like it floats all boats. What's best for this is best for all editions of D&D. What's best for the game engine? What's best for Wizards of the Coast? If all those things are firing, this is just going to keep growing, and it really hasn't. We feel like it hasn't really peaked, Gonzo. Really, it hasn't.
No, I don't think so. We'll probably do a video of that one day.
Yeah.
No, I don't feel it's peaked at all.
Right.
As far as the popularity of it, or obviously the eclectic group of people that are playing. I mean, it's in Hollywood now. It's in all kinds of different circles, but I don't think it's even, once it becomes around in everyone's house, then it'll have peaked. Once most homes and families are using this as part of their family night or getting together, then I would think it would have peaked at that point. But that's a long way away from that. So.
We had a question that came up. Michael wanted to know if we are gamers in general. I was born and raised on video games, more or less. I mean, I told my students I was around when Pong started. I played games all throughout my life, ever since Pong all the way to present. Currently, I got a Nintendo Switch, so I've been playing a lot of Switch games. Gonzo, I know you play some games. What are you playing?
I grew up. I like the sport games, so I've always played like the Madden football. Tecmo Bowl back in the day was awesome.
Tecmo Bowl.
Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, that crazy jump to get to the ball.
Yeah.
What about? Did you ever play Madden back in the day when it was like on the computer and the injuries were like super graphic, like busted eye socket? Like, oh.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, it was pretty funny. But in the early days of Madden, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where they got these injuries.
I play Fortnite. I play Call of Duty. Fortnite, I love it because the 7-year-olds, destroy me. They build all around me, shoot me, kill me, and then they laugh at me and curse me out. I love it. I love Fortnite because I'm terrible at it.
It keeps you humble.
Destroys me. But Call of Duty, stuff like that. But honestly, in the last few years since we've really gotten into playing D&D again, I don't play as much, just here and there. But I get a lot more out of this for sure.
Yeah, me too. I've got some great video games sitting, collecting dust right now. I have like a good number of Switch games. I got.
You said Baldur's Neverwinter Nights are on the Switch?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, they just ported. Yeah, good call, Michael. Yeah, they ported those over. I was tempted on that, and Oh man, there's so many good games on there. It's insane. So yeah, that I got Outer Worlds. I haven't opened that one yet. That's supposed to be kind of Fallout-ish. And Kingdom Hearts 3. I've never really played them, but my little nephew's been ranting and raving about Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, I really haven't played that. I'll try it, and I'm trying to expand my horizons a little bit in video games. But yeah, I don't like Fortnite. I played it. I don't like building things.
What I'm gonna do is go dump this and make a new one. I can't do any more jalapeno habanero herbal tea. So I am done with this.
Wow.
I can't do it.
Come on, you can do it, man. That's a chug. Well, so you're drinking chamomile, which is supposed to make you go to sleep, and then you're drinking jalapeno. They're just duking it out. Yeah. That's crazy.
I can't do it. But
so, Michael, the port is good. Fire Emblem series. Yeah. I know. There's so many games I want to play. So, yeah, Switch has some crazy games that I've been looking at, and it's like, that's I feel like I've abandoned Nintendo since like Nintendo 64 days, and I feel bad, and so I'm trying to catch up. So, all right, well, Gonzo, if you're gonna go change your tea, I think we've been in a good hour here. I think we've hit some good things here. We talked a little bit about some things. Thank you for joining us, everybody that came out. I think we've covered a lot of things. We just like doing these, like hanging out and talking about stuff. Anytime we get time to talk about D&D, and we'd love to hear from our followers on here and talking. It's been great. And yeah, Michael says that's good. Oh man, that's another game I gotta check out.
All right, let's. Mark and I will work on our Dragonlance video. I think we'll work on getting that put together.
Yeah.
And release that at some point. And again, you guys can let us know in the chat if there's anything else, another subject you'd like us to cover. We definitely want your feedback on that. So.
Yep. And I don't know, Gonzo, with that.
All right. Class dismissed. Take care, everyone.